shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Wednesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us. Glad to be back after a little mini New England getaway. Went to visit some of Heidi's family up in Massachusetts and in Maine. And boy, as I was telling Baloo earlier, you really, on a day like this, you really put into perspective just how long 24 hours is. Just a brief synopsis. My day began at 3 a.m. with an alarm in Cornish, Maine. About a 45-minute drive to the historic Portland International Airport, the Jetport, as they call it, Denmark, in Portland, Maine. It's got, I believe, 10 gates in Portland, Maine. We go from Portland then to Baltimore, and that was interesting. Although the good thing, and thank you to the good folks at the airline for this, I get out at C10, and my next gate is C13. So that was good. That was exciting. I didn't have to walk from terminal to terminal. So I had to go to Baltimore, then to Jacksonville. Then when I land in Jacksonville, I had to go out to Jacksonville Beach to pick up my dogs, back to Mandarin. Long story short, it's been quite the day, and it's all happened within the last 17 or so hours. But we're here for you. We're excited. And by the way, I got to tell you this, too. Boy, the blowtorch, that is 1010XL and 92.5 FM, just reaching the masses out at the Jacksonville International Airport. Big shout-out to all the folks out there. You know, when you have a 5-hour delay, Denmark, on Saturday because a certain airline doesn't have flight attendants to run your flight, and instead of leaving at 5:30 on Saturday, you get to leave at 10:30 on Saturday.
I love that.
You get to hang around the airport for a while, particularly with a 5-year-old. That's kind of nice. But in doing that, you get to meet a lot of people out of the Jacksonville International Airport. And boy, 1010XL is very, very popular. My guy Ray, love my guy Ray. He really helped us out with our luggage. Ray's a big Hacker After Dark guy. So Ray, appreciate you, buddy. There was a Jason that I met. Actually met a couple of men in the men's room that saw the sweatshirt and wanted to say hello. That was exciting. So it was a really good Saturday morning. Very exciting time to wait 5 hours. But the trip was fun. Glad to be back with you, and we got a lot to get into because, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the doorstep of March Madness. Really, the madness has already begun last night and tonight in Dayton, but let's be real. The field of 64 tips off in about 16 hours. I filled out my bracket. Got an awful lot of chalk. We'll kind of go through it, and if you need final preparations on your bracket, well, we got you covered tonight. Jerry Palm, one of the main bracketologists out there, CBSSports.com, will join us tonight. Mark Wise of ESPN, who's seen every SEC team this year with his work on the network, he will join us tonight. Also, Blake Lavell, the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast, will join us tonight. So it's a lot of college basketball, but we're not going to go too far away from the Jaguars either. They made news today bringing in a former Florida Gator in offensive tackle Fred Johnson, the fourth offensive lineman the Jaguars have added in free agency. And on a night like tonight, when you got so many free agents from last week to review, you got to simply talk to a guy that's often imitated, never duplicated in the social media world. That's my guy, Eric Dillard. Dilla on social media. Dilla joins me in less than 15 minutes to talk about everything that has transpired with the Jaguars over the last week and a half or so. So we're absolutely jam-packed. Glad to be back with you and glad you're deciding to spend part of your Wednesday evening with us. Every night here on Hacker After Dark, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night and Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No, because it is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
So, a couple of things regarding the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, this was pretty much evident last week, but it becomes more and more evident as the days go by. Can you imagine what Liam Cohen and James Gladstone must have thought at some of the aspects of this roster when they were hired here, based on their actions, not on their words, based on their actions. Guys, they've added 4 offensive linemen in free agency. 4. Fred Johnson, Chuma Edogba, Robert Hainsey, Patrick McCarry. 4 guys to the offensive line. They've added, a receiver, 2 members of the secondary, 2 tight ends, a backup quarterback. They're at 10 free agents now outside that they've brought in, which I believe is either tied or stands alone as the most in the National Football League. They haven't re-signed anybody. Jeremiah Ledbetter, Luke Farrell, Mac Jones, Brandon Sheriff, Andre Sisco. They released Devin Duvernay, Ronald Darby, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. What an indictment by the new regime of what was done here before their arrival. And again, you can say anything you want, right? And they, not to kill Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson, but just look at the actions of Liam Cohen and James Gladstone and Tony Boselli with the personnel on this roster in the last 2.5 weeks. How did we go from Trent Baalke feeding Shad Khan the line that this is the best roster in Jacksonville ever assembled to a flipping 4-13 disaster? Peterson gone, Baalke finally gone, and now the new guys that have been brought in have just sliced and diced this roster because obviously you know what they thought of it based on what they've done. An absolute indictment to the work that was done here by Trent Baalke, to a lesser extent Doug Peterson. And look, put your faith in Liam Cohen and James Gladstone. That's why they were brought in. If nothing else, put your faith in James Gladstone because his name is not Trent Baalke. All right? Doug Peterson at least has a Super Bowl ring, an accomplished guy. I just think the game may have passed him by a little bit, was too loyal to some people as well. But the personnel movement on this roster in both bringing in outside free agents and not re-signing any of your own guys is, again, an absolute total indictment of the job that was done here recently by Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson. Again, I can't ever remember 4 offensive linemen being brought in one free agency period. And all 4 are likely to make the roster. They drafted Javon Foster in the 4th round last year. 4th round pick, Javon Foster. They've brought in 2 offensive tackles in free agency. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? It's probably not good news for Javon Foster, right? I mean, Fred Johnson's a guy that started 6 games for the eventual Super Bowl champions last year. When guys were hurt in Philadelphia, Fred Johnson was in. He got 6 starts in 2024. He's only 27 years old, very similar to Chuma Edogba, who's got 10 starts in Dallas over the last 2 years. Obviously, McCarry's going to be a starter. Hainsey's probably going to be a starter. Is anybody safe? I mean, I don't know. You bring in Fred Johnson, you bring in Chuma Edogba. Again, Fred Johnson, who started 6 games in Philadelphia. Are we assuming he's a swing tackle? He's a depth piece? Or could there be something else there? And they also have 10 draft picks. Obviously, they thought the offensive line was a joke. And again, that's not me saying that. That's looking at what they've done. What they've done tells you that they thought the offensive line here, at least the back half of it, was a joke. But it's easy to think that when your team goes 4-13 and is one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL. But it's a new day. It's a new regime. It's a new dawn. And it's 10 new outside free agents for the Jacksonville Jaguars, with the addition of Fred Johnson earlier today. More on the Jaguars in a moment. Again, Eric Dillard, Dilla on social media, joins me in less than 10 minutes. Denmark, you and I haven't spoke Since the Florida Gators won the SEC tournament, they will play Friday night against Norfolk State in the 1-16 matchup in the West region. What a dominating performance by Florida over 3 days. They beat a Missouri team who I have going to the Sweet 16. They beat an Alabama team who I have going to the Elite Eight, and they beat a Tennessee team who I have going, I believe, to the Final Four in a 48-hour period, basically. Absolute domination by Florida. None of those games were particularly close. I guess Tennessee was the closest one, but that wasn't really close with 4 or 5 minutes to go. Florida, arguably, along with Duke, is the hottest team coming into this tournament. Maybe Houston as well, but clearly Florida's in the conversation. And I got to tell you, Denmark, again, I'm not an encyclopedia when it comes to all of these teams in the tournament, but people were mad that Florida was the fourth number one. I get it, whatever. When I look at Auburn's draw and I look at Houston's draw, I'm not sure if you should be that mad that Florida was the fourth number one. You know, UConn's got sports-related PTSD for a lot of people in this area because of what happened in 2014. I will stress this over and over and over again because of people in the expertise that I've talked to. Mark Wise, Jerry Palm, and you're going to hear from all these guys tonight. This is not UConn in 2014. And it's darn sure not UConn of the last 2 years. This is an 8-seed UConn. Don't play the name on the uniform. Play the guys that are in said uniform. And if you do that, Florida should win that game by double digits. I think UConn might have an interesting time with Oklahoma, quite frankly. But Norfolk State you'll beat. You should get through to the Sweet 16. And then, look, Maryland to me is the one I've been told by many is probably the biggest issue for Florida, more so than St. John's, more so than Texas Tech. But Denmark, I got to tell you, man, overall, I kind of like the draw Florida has here beginning on Friday.
Yeah, it was funny. Graham and I did a pod right after they beat Tennessee on Sunday, and I asked the question, who does Florida not want to play in their region? And it was Maryland, BYU, Texas Tech, and St. John's, and they got 3 of those teams. All in all, I'm not really – at first, I was kind of upset that Florida didn't get the number 1 overall seed and didn't get Auburn in that side of the region because that way they would have played at Lexington and then played in Atlanta and the second weekend for the Elite Eight. But now I'm kind of just like, whatever. The games are out there. I still think Florida has the toughest region, but most of the teams are on the other side of their bracket, so it's not like they're going to play all of those teams leading up to the Elite Eight. But,
you think Florida has the toughest region?
Yeah.
Wow.
I did initially. I still think
I'd much rather see St. John's than Alabama or Tennessee. I'll tell you that. I'm done with Alabama and Tennessee.
True. But Texas Tech is a tough out. Maryland's a tough out.
Yeah, and the
Missouri.
good thing is, see, that's the thing. I think Missouri's going to beat Texas Tech. Maybe that's my SEC homerism. And I hear you on St. John's and Texas Tech, but they play each other. So if Florida keeps winning, they're not going to play both of them. They're only going to have to play one of them. The St. John's thing is that, look, St. John's is a darling because of where they are and because of who their coach is, all right? I haven't watched much St. John's. I've watched a little bit here and there, but I've been talking to a lot of people this week. If St. John's didn't have Rick Pitino as their head coach, and if they had the same resume and they played in, same conference, they played in Connecticut or Rhode Island instead of where they do and who their coach is, I don't know if they'd be getting all the hype that they're getting.
No, they wouldn't be.
I tell you this, Tennessee and Alabama, I much rather see St. John's as a 2 than have to deal with Tennessee again or deal with Alabama again. Because Alabama, it would be hard to beat them for a third time, even though Florida dominated them in the tournament. And Tennessee, the only reason Florida pulled away late is because all the volunteer guys fouled out. Tennessee was within 5 with 7 minutes to go. So I am very pleased that it's St. John's. I'm pleased that Texas Tech is also there because Texas Tech's the team that people will tell me, I'm not really up to date on Texas Tech Red Raider basketball, but from what I've been told is that's a bad matchup for Florida. But again, they have to play St. John's if they both get to the 16, so Florida's only going to play one of them. And I cannot stress this enough with UConn. I had my buddies texting me right after the bracket was released on Sunday. Oh, my God, UConn, are you kidding me? Why would they do this? Don't play the logo. Don't play the uniform. Play the guys that are wearing the uniform. They're an 8 seed for a reason. They're not what they were in 2014, and they're not what they have been in the last 2 years. So we'll see what happens. I think it's interesting. Florida could play a conference opponent in the round of 32. I mean, everybody's talking about UConn. What about Oklahoma? Oklahoma was 13-0 before SEC play started with wins over like Arizona, and Oklahoma had 3 really good quad 1 wins before conference play even started. So, but anyway, it gets underway. Really, it's underway already in Dayton, but obviously tomorrow in unison. Quickly, Denmark, who's in your Final Four?
Florida, Michigan State, Duke, and Houston. I didn't want to go 4-1 seeds, although I did want to pick Auburn. And then I got Florida beating Duke in the title.
I was trying to really find some upsets. I'm surprised because Blue said you have a lot. Man, I just couldn't find many. I got 3 SEC teams, and it sounds like I'm homering up here. I got Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Tennessee, and I got Florida over Duke in the championship game. In the first round, I think I only have 1 double-digit seed winning, and that's North Carolina as an 11. I don't think I have anybody else, but apparently you have a lot of upsets.
Yeah, Colorado State's a favorite over Memphis, a 12 seed over a 5, so I picked that. I have the UC San Diego beating Michigan.
Wow.
And I had one more somewhere. I can't find it. But, yeah, I have a couple. I don't go crazy with it like have them going to the Elite Eight because usually they might win a game, maybe 2, and then, they kind of fizzle out after that. But everybody's talking about how wide open college basketball is. I still think it's going to be the main 1 and 2 seeds making the Elite Eight. You'll have a rare 6 seed come out of nowhere. But other than that, it's going to be the usuals.
We got to go quick here because we got Eric Dillard, Dilla coming up talking Jags. I did this on my Awaken 180 Numbers of the Week video that I think is going to be posted tomorrow. Here's a little sneak preview for you. Number 1 seeds dating back to 1985, every year since 1985. What's the percentage for number 1 seeds making the Final Four?
I'd probably say 12%.
I was surprised. It was 39.7.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea.
Make the Final Four.
Yeah.
98% make the round of 32, 98.7. 86% make the Sweet 16. 66% make the Elite Eight. 40%, 39.7 make the Final Four. That's from 1985 to 2024, and that's what Florida is, beginning on Friday night against Norfolk State in the West region. Ton of college basketball coming up later on, but first, into the Jaguars. Eric Dillard, you know him as E. Dilla. Often imitated, never duplicated. Let's talk with E. Dilla about free agency, get his thoughts on what the Jaguar fan base is thinking. Dilla joins me next on a Wednesday night here in Jacksonville, Florida. We're glad you're with us right here on Hacker After Dark.
Now, another classic moment in Jags history.
There's the snap. Brunell standing in the pocket, has time. He's on the run to his left. He's got Keenan all alone. Keenan makes the catch at the 10. Tyrope's down the sideline, and the referee signaled touchdown. A 47-yard touchdown pass.
Jaguars pride forever. 1010XL.
Do the Garber wiggle, Garber wiggle, 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 Garber wiggle.
Garber Auto Mall is home of the lifetime warranty. Every new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chevy, Buick, GMC, and Ford comes with a lifetime warranty. At Garber Auto Mall, your purchase is covered for life. Visit us in Green Cove Springs or at GarberAutomall.com. And remember, at Garber Auto Mall, there's always a little room for wiggle.
The Garber wiggle, Garber wiggle, 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 Garber wiggle.
Bueller.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey, buddy, you look worried.
Worried? I'm apoplectic!
You're what now?
I'm freaking out, Jason. Stupid water heater crapped out, so I haven't showered since Thursday. I start smelling a little funky, blow my big corporate job interview tomorrow. I'll end up settling for some dead-end career selling spatulas on the internet.
Dude, stay cool.
There's nothing cool about a cold shower, Jason. I mean, I know how that sounds, but
Bueller Air and Plumbing can get a new water heater installed today. The day you call. You could be smelling fresh again by dinner time.
wait, you can do that?
Put on these sunglasses. Whoa. Is that cooler?
Oh, yeah.
Well, life moves pretty fast. If you spend much more time smelling like this, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Gun charges, drug charges. I'm Attorney Malcolm Anthony, and I specialize in handling these types of felony cases. Stay out of trouble. But if you don't, call me at 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW.
Welcome to AT&T. How can I help?
Hey, I thought I could trust my twins with my phone, but they outnumber me, man.
Whoa, that's a lot of glitter paint.
Let's trade lives.
At AT&T, everyone can trade in an old or glittered iPhone any year, any condition, and save on a new iPhone. Ask how to get iPhone 16 Pro on us. New and existing customers. Savings vary by device and trade-in combinations. Restrictions apply. See att.com for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
From the driving range to the 18th green, it's Brunch with the Tour.
Well done.
You've got to be kidding.
Tour news, tips, and inside info brought to you by
Clearwater Irrigation, 8:30 Tuesday morning on 1010XL.
It's Blue, and I couldn't see everyone else here at the station lose weight while I'm on the sidelines wishing mine away. I jumped on Awaken 182, and I mean weight loss every week, eating to lose weight, and then receive full support for life. What's not to like? Now, I didn't drop the double digits like Hacker did in week 1, but I'm down 4 pounds. I'll take that any day. The best part, Awaken 180 was actually easier than I expected. I'm not sure what I thought beforehand, but after just day 1, I was already in a groove. Wasn't hungry, more energy, and my coach Patrick is awesome. Gave me a couple of tips since I do sleep in and, of course, stay up late. And I'm off. I'm cruising through week 2 and loving it. You've heard all about Choose Awaken 180, all of us having success with Awaken 180. What do you have to lose? Only weight. Everything else to gain with the solution for weight loss. Reserve your March consultation today at awaken180weightloss.com or call 844-346-1800.
The hoops action continues on the first Friday of the tourney. Watch the madness with 1010XL and enjoy madness specials all day long. Starting with Helmets and Heels, live from Big Dog Sports Restaurant on Blanding. Then join XL Primetime at Barley and Pie in Fleming Island. The Frangie Show will be at String Sports Brewery in Jacks Beach. And finish the day with Into the Night with Rick Ballou and Hacker After Dark at Top Dog Tavern on Old St. Augustine Road. Now that's the way to celebrate hoops.
I can't believe it.
Here's your 1010XL community calendar of local events and nonprofit groups helping people here at home.
Learn how human trafficking works, where it's happening in Jacksonville, and what you can do to help stop it. Plan to attend the Band of Brothers man-to-man training at Rethreaded on Friday, March 21st from 3 to 5 p.m.
Young Lives is a nonprofit helping teen moms flourish in their communities with the help of support and love. Join Young Lives at Topgolf Sunday, March 30th from 2 to 5 for their community fundraiser. Sponsor or learn more at jacksmetroyounglives.younglife.org.
The Tom Coughlin J Fund helps families battling childhood cancer, and there are ways you can help. Go to tcjfund.org.
Builders Care is looking for volunteers, and there are so many ways you can help. Find out how at builderscare.org.
You can find out how to share your community event at 1010XL.com.
Haymaker Coffee is a local coffee brand to help fuel your daily grind. Why Haymaker? It's fuel for the morning hustle, the late night, and every step of the way. Bold flavors for the bold city. Online at haymakercoffeeco.com.
Buying a home used to feel like a complete headache. Listings here, pre-approval there, financing somewhere else. Now, Rocket is giving every home one address. Rocket.com. A single seamless homeownership platform to help you find, buy, sell, finance, and refinance your home. Everything you need, all under one roof. Visit Rocket.com, the new home for all things homeownership. Rocket. Own the dream.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. 9 brand new free agents for the Jacksonville Jaguars have been brought in since last Monday. And interestingly enough, basically none of their own in-house free agents have been re-signed. That's also an interesting subplot to all of this. Let's take a look at what the Jaguars have done the last couple of weeks and what it may mean moving forward into the NFL draft. My buddy Eric Dillard, you know him as E. Dilla on social media. I'll say the often imitated, never duplicated E. Dilla on social media. Dilla, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me back on. Happy
middle free agency period. It's almost the draft. It's a month out, but, it'll be here quick.
9 free agents that were brought in. Now, let me first and foremost just say that I think some people, some Jaguar fans, were probably underwhelmed is the term I heard used a lot about the free agent haul. I personally really like. I see the vision of what Gladstone, Cohen, and Baselli did. What was your takeaway from it?
Same thing for me. I saw a lot of the people who are underwhelmed, and I think that they're just stuck in, the bulky Dave Caldwell, we're going to get a splash, which we saw. Never really worked out. They did have the one good year in 2017 after doing it, but overall, doesn't seem like the proper way to do it. So, like you, really excited. A few of the players I'm more excited about than I thought I would be. I think De'Ami Brown is going to be like the most puzzle piece player we've ever signed in terms of like the non-big named guys coming in and having an impact.
You mentioned De'Ami Brown. I completely agree with you. And Liam Cohen saw him up close and personal wild card weekend when he put 5 for 89 and a touchdown on the board in Washington's win over Tampa Bay. And I like it's a 1-year deal for a guy in his mid-20s, Dilla. Obviously, he wants to prove it again to get a big payday next year.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, a lot of people are like, well, look at his production. It wasn't there all year. But if you go back and look at what he did, he excelled in positions you think you're going to see him a lot in Cohen's offense. A lot of imitation of what they did in Tampa. If they do that here, he's going to have so much room, and he's so big. I mean, really physical. He's like 6 foot, like 200 pounds. But I don't know if you just brought it up. You're talking about the Tampa game. I mean, he was running people flat over. That makes me excited for someone where we're going to see these bubble screens. And then even in the slot, just straight running past people over the top. Trevor Lawrence can throw that ball. We need guys who can run it.
Eric Dillard, Dilla on social media with us here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL. And you look at what De'Ami Brown did potentially for Terry McLaurin last year in Washington and what that could mean for Brian Thomas Jr. this year in Jacksonville. Since we're on the offensive side of the ball, let's go to the big uglies on the O-line. Boy, Patrick McCarry's an interesting one, Dilla, in that the guy has played all 5 positions along the line. And, in fact, I believe he's played 275-plus snaps in his career at every position. I would have to think he's the only guy in the NFL right now that can say that.
Yeah, I think that's, like, incredibly talented, incredibly good to have on the line. You know what I mean? Someone who's got the flexibility, especially we've seen over the years. The offensive lines don't stay healthy in the NFL. So having a guy who is the starter that you can plug and play, you can't be upset with it. I feel similar, too, with the center, Robert Hainsey, I think his name was. Someone who is in Cohen's offense. I think it's a huge advantage to have a center. Some people know, but a lot of people don't know this. The center communicates on the line just like the quarterback. It's just they're bent over and we don't hear it and see it as much. So having someone who can come up to the line, make the offensive line checks for the quarterback, already in year one, as Trevor's, learning another offense, again in his short NFL career. It's a huge positive. And then I think Chuma Idogba, I believe, Doga, he's going to be a swing guy, and I think that's kind of an indictment on Javon Foster. Poor Trent Baalke drafted someone who will probably never have any impact on the Jaguars.
Yeah, 4th-round pick, by the way, for Javon Foster. Yeah. That's a pretty decent pick for a guy that we're not expecting much out of right now. And back to Hainsey for a moment. I think the problem there, Dilla, and you know this, man, is that people see Luke Fortner there. And what I mean by that is the guy that started for 2 years in Tampa and then was essentially beat out by a first-round rookie. And people say, well, Fortner's the same thing. Started 2 years, then they brought in Mitch Morse. But talking to people in Tampa, they're much, much higher on Hainsey than we were here on Fortner.
Yeah, and I think that if you remember what Fortner's, biggest issue is, it's, true weakness. I mean, he just fit, proverbially living in the backfield. He got pushed all over. And you can't have a guy in the middle of the line just be your – weak link when it comes to physicality. And it doesn't sound like Hainsey's in that same boat. Play football at Notre Dame. He's got to be a big beef tank.
You go to the defensive side of the ball now, Jordan Lewis, that might have been, I wouldn't call it a head scratcher necessarily. It was literally the first guy they agreed to terms with. People in Dallas love him. And Jordan Lewis, by the way, is not going to back down on social media either. He's mixing it up with some folks on social media, which I kind of like. But to me, the biggest question there is, what does that mean for Jarian Jones? But I guess we might already have that answer. Maybe they think Jarian Jones can play on the outside.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of I don't want to call it a head scratcher per se, but it is kind of interesting that the best player on paper that they signed is at a position we didn't have a hole at. And like you said, it sounds like Gladstone and them have come out and said Jarian's going to play outside. And I'm not against it, but I am kind of under the thought process of if it's not broken, don't fix it. So I am curious to see what they do in the draft. I know we'll probably get there later, but they need another outside cornerback. And even with Jarian Jones, if he slots in and plays well, it's a surprise. But I think going into the season with just him and Campbell outside with Jordan Lewis inside, while it's a decent group, it just makes you wonder. I do think Jordan Lewis is a great slot corner. He's physical as all get out. He thumps, against the run. And like you said, his attitude, you can see it on social media. So we're getting no secret look at what we just signed in Jordan Lewis. But like you said, it is kind of weird that's the on paper best guy that they signed.
Couple of more for Eric Dillard. You know him as Dilla on social media. All right, Eric Murray Dilla is the next guy. And look, I think everybody wanted Javon Holland or Morig or Cam Bynum. I was personally a Cam Bynum guy. Eric Murray, they use the word safe. And if you listen to Gladstone, James Gladstone, the GM, I really like it because if you listen to his press conferences, he kind of tells you really what he's thinking. And a couple of times now, he's used the word safety, and what does that mean? It means safe. Obviously, they thought the safeties here in Jacksonville last year were anything but that, and they were right. There were so many blown coverages. Murray's the kind of guy that won't have a lot of appeal. Probably people won't go buy season tickets because of Eric Murray, but he's going to be considerably safer than maybe Cisco was last year.
Yeah, and I think the scheme change on defense, we're going to see, improvement alone based off that. I don't know whatever the heck they ran last year, but that was diabolical. It was so bad. So if we factor that in, we got players who don't make as many mistakes. And then I think he's got position flexibility. He can play either safety spot, which allows them to be flexible in the draft. If they get certain free safety or certain strong safety that they're targeting, Eric Murray can play the other side. And if you go look at his contract, he could also not be a starter. You know what I mean? It's not like they blew a bag on him and they're stuck playing with him. And that's the same way for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, they have a lot of cap room still, even after bringing in 9 guys. And again, James Gladstone, he's used the term a lot, raising the floor of the roster. And I translated that last week. Not that Gladstone said this, but it's obviously what he meant. The bottom half of this roster was terrible last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is what it is. It was terrible. So they needed to improve a terrible bottom half of the roster, and I think they did that. But one of the big stories to me, too, that maybe we're not talking enough about, not the 9 guys they brought in, but Dilla, they didn't re-sign anybody. I mean, they let everybody walk, basically. I guess Cole Van Lanen's the one exception, and they tendered him. But aside from that, all of their in-house guys are no longer here.
Yeah, and it's funny. People have mentioned it, but no one's upset with it, which is all you need to know about where the roster stood. And people, you'll hear them, the Ingram cut and the Kirk cut that turned into a trade. I understand why people have gripes with that. And then they turn around, right away. And they don't necessarily address the slot receiver like some people thought they would. But I do think that the tight ends aren't talked about enough. I think both tight ends they sign make that room pretty solid with Brenton Strange. Hunter Long, he doesn't catch the ball, but he's there to block. You know what I'm saying, if he gets snaps. But Johnny Munt, I think he could surprise some people. I think he just kind of he can move really well. He played in Udinsky's offense already, so it's another guy who's got familiarity. And I think that's kind of telling, too, that they went and got guys that they were familiar with. They talk about that ecosystem approach that they're going with. And they went and got guys that, one, they're comfortable with, and then like you said too, they're not risky. And overall, I'm pretty excited with it. It looks like it's a new Jaguars recipe to success. Hopefully, we're gonna foundation build with some FA, but we're really gonna grow with the draft, and that excites me a lot.
Yeah, 21 draft picks over the next 2 years, no doubt about it. Final moments, Eric Dillard, Dilla on social media. And I thought maybe it was just me. I'm curious your reaction and the fan base on social media's reaction. When the Jaguars released that little 2-minute snippet of the Hunt preview last week, and you kind of went inside the free agent war room, boy, the emotion from Gladstone, Cohen, and Baselli when they got word that one of those guys was signing. I think it was either Brown or Macari. I wasn't sure which agent was on the phone. But the genuine emotion, you know where we see that, Dylan? We see that in Detroit with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
We see that in Buffalo with Bean and all those guys. You haven't seen that here in Jacksonville. And to see that in that video, man, that had to get you pretty fired up.
100%. And it's so funny because it's not them being fake. That's who they are. They're genuinely excited. You know what I mean? Some people say it's cringe, but if you look at it, it's a genuine emotion. Doug Peterson had the emotion of a wet paper towel. You know what I mean? Like he just wasn't giving you anything. Trent Baalke, with his raspy voice, no matter what he was saying, it sounded the same. These guys they're pumping new life into the organization. Whether you agree with what they're doing right now or not, there's a very obvious plan that they're laying down and performing. So overall, I'm just super pumped with that.
If they keep number 5, based on the way free agency went, I mean, it appears D-line, right? Because they haven't added anybody on the D-line. I mean, are you a Mason Graham guy at this point?
Yeah, I would love Mason Graham. I think the only other player that I'd want him to take at 5 if he was there is Travis Hunter. I think that if you look at the roster, you could use an outside receiver, or you could use someone who's playing here or there in the slot, and that kind of fits I don't think he's going to play 100% on both sides of the ball. But if he's playing some snaps on offense, and then, again, we talked about corner, he can play outside corner. And then they've got Brian Thomas Jr., who they've alluded to is going to play a ton in the slot. It just gives you so much positional flexibility that I think it's a guy worth taking. I mean, Travis Hunter is a superstar in the making, but I love Mason Graham. I mean, just a pocket pusher. I think that our edges could benefit so much from having someone inside to push the quarterback into them instead of just, stepping up and throwing a ball over Andre Sisko's head like we saw in the past.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, and look, by no means am I making a comparison between Gladstone and Baalke, but this is the 3rd off season in a row that, at least for now, they haven't added an edge. All right, yeah. And Baalke went 2 off seasons in a row, and I've ripped him every time. So Gladstone is not, beneath criticism. I believe they will address the edge position, but again, like Ojulari, who just signed in Philadelphia for $4 million, 25 years old. Why? And maybe Jacksonville did look at that. I don't know, but a guy like that, why would you not do that? Is my question.
I'm there with you. I mean, edge 3, they have got to add an edge 3. And even if they draft, like he mentioned in his press conference, he doesn't want to sign players that'll prevent rookies from playing. But edge, they're so light at edge that you need a functional edge 3, and truly you need a 4th guy who gets snaps too. So, I heard that they're still in the edge market, but it does kind of seem like with the guys that are available, they're all kind of older. So maybe it's something where the teams wait until post-draft to sign them, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping that that's kind of the path we're on. I felt the same way with the Ojulari for $4 million, but then again, I told myself, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I would take a little less money on a 1-year deal to go ring chase in Philly than I might in Jacksonville, a team that's starting something new.
That's fair. That's a good point. Again, we don't know if Jacksonville was in on that or not. I agree. They're going to bring in an edge at some point, probably a couple over the next couple of weeks, either or right after the draft. Eric Dillard, you know him as Dilla on social media. Dilla, I know you're busy, man. Thank you as always for the time. We'll do it again soon, pal.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys, and go Jags.
There you go. Dilla with us here on 1010XL on Hacker After Dark. Always appreciate Eric Dillard joining us here on HAD. And look, the Jaguars again today, Fred Johnson, former Florida Gator, the 10th outside free agent, the 4th offensive lineman. And we'll see what happens as the NFL draft is approaching. What are we, 6 weeks away? Something like that? I think it's 6 weeks away from the NFL draft, which, of course, is in now late April. More Jaguars coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, but it's time to start looking at the madness. The bracket is out. It probably, You got the games going on in Dayton right now. Mount St. Mary's is about to eliminate American. I don't know how many of you filled that bracket out. Texas and Xavier later on tonight as the final game in Dayton, and then noon tomorrow. You got 16 games tomorrow, 16 on Friday. Of course, the Gators start on Friday evening against Norfolk State. Let's talk. A lot of college hoops coming up here on Hacker After Dark. We'll begin with Blake Lavell. He is the host of the Southeastern 16. 14 of those 16 SEC teams made the NCAA tournament. That is a record for any conference since they started keeping track of those type things. The percentage of teams in a conference to make the tournament based on the percentage of teams that did not. This year in the SEC was the most teams ever based on percentages. 14 out of 16. That is wild. Let's talk Florida, but let's also look at Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri. What other teams could make runs as you put the finishing touches on your bracket? Blake Lavell, host of the Southeastern 16 podcast, joins me next on a Wednesday night here in Northeast Florida. We're glad you're with us. Hacker After Dark till 10 o'clock on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
There's a reason why people love to listen to play-by-play on the radio.
This is unbelievable what we're witnessing. I'm serious.
1010XL, Jacksonville's home for play-by-play.
Here's Linda Beaver.
At Beaver Toyota, we believe your experience should be more than just buying a car. It should be a lifetime of confidence, care, and trust. We're proud to offer a lifetime warranty, lifetime oil changes, and lifetime customer service. We're not just here to sell you a car. We're here to establish a lifelong relationship that you can always count on. It's simple. You deserve the best and shouldn't settle for less. Visit Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine, where we're ready to give you peace of mind for a lifetime. We're here to wow you.
Florida heat is no joke. Is your air conditioner ready for it? At Duck Duck Air Conditioning, we've got a crazy offer just for you. We're giving away free AC inspections to our wonderful customers who now call and schedule. One of our expert techs will come look at your AC unit and make recommendations to ensure it's running at peak performance. But you must act today. A deal this good won't last forever. Call 904-862-6769. Duck Duck Air Conditioning. DuckDuckAC.com. Any required repairs are not included in the inspection.
Tired of seeing the signs of aging? Spring is here, a time to renew. I'm Dr. Mark Capel, a board-certified dermatologist, here to help you look and feel your best with minimal to no downtime. Rejuvenate your skin, strengthen your core, and sculpt your body with advanced face and body treatments designed to restore your youthful glow and confidence. Just in time for spring and summer. A healthier, more fit you starts now. Visit dermagnify.com and step into spring looking and feeling your best.
Jags fans, here's your chance to score a trip to Green Bay for round one of draft night. Through the Everbank Draft Night Experience Sweepstakes, one lucky winner and a guest will be there live and in person to see the Jaguars make their first pick. To enter, visit everbank.com/draft by April 4th. That's everbank.com/draft. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open to legal residents of the United States and D.C. 18 and older. Entry period from 3/3/25 to 4/4/25. For official rules, prize description, odds of winning, and other details, visit everbank.com/draft. Sponsored administrator, Everbank N.A.
Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish. And he's listening to the Nimnicht Outdoors Show.
With tips and stories.
Presented by Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning.
Every Saturday morning, 7 to 10.
On 1010XL.
Looking for adventure? Need a machine that works as hard as you do? CF Moto has you covered. At Ride Now Beach Boulevard, we've got CF Moto ATVs and UTVs built for any task, any trail, anytime. Tear up the dirt with the trail-tested C-Force ATV lineup or conquer through terrain with a Z-Force UTV. Find your CF Moto ride today at Ride Now Beach Boulevard or visit ridenowbeachboulevard.com. ATVs and UTVs are for riders 16 and older. They can be hazardous to operate. CF Moto recommends an improved safety training course.
You are in for a treat on Saturday, March 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. at Tobacco Cove, where the smoke is rich and the deals are hotter than a lit cigar. It's time for the La Aroma de Cuba cigar event with great cigars, mouth-watering food, and awesome prizes. What more could you want? Tobacco Cove, 3849 Bay Meadows Road. More than a cigar store, it's an experience.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Clay Solar Installation Partners, your local women-owned solar company.
At Clay Solar, we're more than just panels and power. We're about people. We make the switch to clean energy simple, stress-free, and built to last. If you've had a bad experience with solar in the past, we can help. We specialize in dependable solutions and top-notch customer service, so you can finally enjoy the savings and sustainability you deserve. Schedule your free consultation at claysolar.com.
Hey folks, Nick here for Zero Res. You're going to want to beat the spring cleaning rush and call our cleaning heroes at Zero Res. This month, get one room Zero Resified starting at $53. Hey, and take $100 off your air duct cleaning. Don't forget about your air ducts. Your air ducts sort of like the lungs of your home. If they're dirty, your indoor air quality suffers. Visit ZeroResJacksonville.com. Tell them Dan or 1010XL sent you. Spell it forwards or backwards. Zero Res. It's the right way to clean. Zero Res.
Buying a home used to feel like a complete headache. Listings here, pre-approval there, financing somewhere else. Now, Rocket is giving every home one address. Rocket.com. A single, seamless homeownership platform to help you find, buy, sell, finance, and refinance your home. Everything you need, all under one roof. Visit Rocket.com, the new home for all things homeownership. Rocket. Own the dream.
When you're experiencing sudden, unexpected dental pain, the last thing you want to hear is that your dentist can't see you until next week. That's why I'm so glad I found Harbor Dental Care. Whenever I call, they always find a way to see me within 24 hours, and they can usually fix whatever's wrong the same day. Plus, they have locations throughout Jacksonville, so no matter what side of town I'm on, I can always count on the same great care. If you want to find a dentist who believes in treating people right, learn more at harbordental.care. That's HARBOUR dental.care.
ET here, and if you've ever been injured in an accident, visit my buddy Dr. McGowan at McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation Center. You have 14 days to see a doctor and protect your insurance benefits, even if you're at fault. And no matter what you hear, you have the right to choose your own doctor. So I recommend McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation. Their auto experts will guide you in every step of the way to ensure the care that you need. Your recovery starts with McGowan Spinal Rehabilitation.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Florida, the number one seed in the West region. They will tip it off Friday night against Norfolk State in round one of the NCAA tournament. The Gators are one of what was a record-setting amount of teams out of the SEC that made the big dance. Let's talk about all of it with Blake Lavell. He is the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast. Blake has been just absolutely destroying it on social media all year with the basketball coverage in the SEC, and Blake is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Blake, how you doing, man?
Yeah, doing well, Ryan. Yeah, what a fun time, right? 14 SEC teams get in, especially if you're a Florida Gators fan. After what I saw from them last week in Nashville, yeah, you got to be feeling pretty good about things.
I want to focus on the Gators primarily, but the league as a whole, which you cover and do a great job in doing so, and I mean it. Your coverage has been fantastic from your podcast. You're kind of known as the SEC basketball guy at this point. Look, did we know back in October? I mean, I don't think we knew this, right? But did we know the league was going to be one of the best, if not the best in the country, or is this a surprise to even you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it'd be one of the best, right? And I feel like we've had that debate over the past couple of years. You know, it's going to be the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10. Like, those conferences have kind of been in that same area. But like you said, I mean, I don't think even for me, the ultimate optimist when it comes to SEC basketball would have thought it would be this, just because, you know, you try to do the math and you're thinking, okay, sure, there can be a lot of good teams, but it's not going to be like this. And I think that's where, when we saw what happened in non-conference play, it really set the stage to make it very clear that no matter what happened in conference play, this was still going to be a league that had a chance to break the record for number of teams in the NCAA tournament, just because of that 185-23 mark that the SEC had in non-conference play, which, again, my guess is that it will never be replicated potentially. That's just not something you see very often. So, you know, as we know, too, the SEC's put a lot more money into this. NIL transfers, all that, it played a big role. But, yeah, I mean, even to this level, to see this many teams you feel like have a chance to make a Final Four, win a national championship, but also just to have this many teams in the field. Not even I could have predicted that.
I mean, statistically, Blake, it's the best conference for one single year in the history of college basketball, right? I mean, you look at the percentage of teams in the conference compared to the percentage of teams that got in out of said conference. No conference has ever had a year like this. It's crazy.
It is. And I mean, that's what, like, if you were looking at the advanced metrics with Ken Palm and all that stuff throughout the season, that was kind of the race. It was the race to see if the SEC was going to eclipse the ACC, which from like 1996-97 season, that was statistically the best season we've ever seen from a conference. But of course, what a difference that is, right? That ACC had 9 teams. This SEC has 16, and now it is sort of safely eclipsed that. At least, again, if you look at the advanced metrics, the SEC is far and away this year the best single season we've seen of any conference. And like I said, certainly a lot of that's going to draw on just the strength and the number of quality wins you won, in the conference portion. But it really does go back to what they did in non-conference play and just how that, sort of impacts your overall strength as a league.
Blake Lavell is the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast. He's with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. All right, let's get to Florida. And before we really break down the Gators, I got to ask you something, Blake. You cover both teams. Maybe we're a little biased here, and that's probably true. I mean, we're the home of the Gators in Jacksonville. So take that into account when I ask you this. Why is the narrative that Auburn is so much better than Florida? Because I just don't agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that's where, you certainly have to look at this two different ways, because Auburn had the best resume overall, but Florida is the best team right now. And I think that's very about as cut and dry as it gets when it comes to just how we have to look at teams going into the tournament. And that's the question, right? Do you want the team that has the best resume throughout the entire season, or do you want the team that's playing the best? I'm probably going to pick the team that's playing the best, who had a resume that really wasn't that far off, all things considered, especially when you see what Florida has done over the past little bit. And so I think that's the thing. And that's why, again, when we look at it, the committee every year is going to tell us it's the full body of work and all those other things. I mean, Auburn just had a ridiculous amount of quad one wins. They had 16 going into Selection Sunday. So even though they've slipped up a little bit here down the stretch, that's probably why they were still going to be in the lead when it came to that top overall spot. They were 27-2, 2 weeks ago. And so I think that has to be factored in. But again, if you're looking at it right now, I just don't know how you could make the argument to me at this very moment that Auburn should be favored over Florida to win a national championship. I just think Florida is the team that is playing the best of anybody in the country. I don't care if it's Duke. I don't care if it's Houston. I think Florida's the best team right now. And I think, again, when we've seen this set up before, where Florida goes through an SEC tournament the way they did, many years ago, and I'm not trying to set everybody up to think back-to-back national championships here, but it is kind of an interesting parallel when you just think about the dominance that they've had over this past little bit. And now I think when you look at it going into this particular, part of their bracket and the bracket as a whole, it's hard not to like, I think, Florida's set up here.
5-1, the Gators are against Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn. SEC tournament champions, a 30-win regular season, and now look, number one in the West heading into Friday night. How did Todd Golden do this in 3 short years?
Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it? And I think it's also one of these things too. I think for Florida, we always talk about, the nature of transfers, and certainly, I mean, that's always going to play a role. But I think you look at the way this team has been built, and you see kind of the value, not just of the guys that came in, but also the value of the guys who came back. And I think that, to me, was the biggest part of this, was knowing that you were going to have Walter Clayton, Will Richard, Condon, Hanlogden, Thomas Houck, Aberdeen, all these guys who were on the roster last year. And, we're so used to seeing rosters change where, 7 or 8 new guys are in the rotation every year or something like that. That's just, again, how it works in this era. But look at the continuity you have with those guys going back to last season and seeing how he's able to take some of those guys and develop them now to the point. I mean, Richard's been there 3 years now. And just to see the development they've had, throughout the course of these past couple of seasons. And I think that's the biggest difference. And of course, again, you do have to hit on transfers. And that's why, Elijah Martin coming in was what they needed. They needed someone like that to help them on the defensive side. Same thing with Chinyalu. He comes in. And I just feel like that is sort of the pieces that you have to put together to have a team like this going into March feeling like you can win a national championship. They've used the combination of developing guys within their program to be superstars, just like they've done with Clayton, and Richard and those guys, but also bringing in guys, who have been able to really contribute. And you have to hit on those transfers if you want it to all come together, and they've certainly been able to do that.
A couple of more for Blake Lavell, the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast. Blake, you mentioned it earlier. Look at Florida's bracket out west. Look, I think there's some sports-related PTSD for Gator fans for UConn in the bracket because of what happened in 2014 and obviously UConn being the back-to-back national champions. First and foremost, I think UConn's going to have their hands full with Oklahoma. But having said that, if it is Florida and UConn, tough game, yes, but I cannot stress this enough to Gator fans. UConn is not what they were in 2014 this year, and they're clearly not what they have been the last 2 seasons.
Yes, and I would stress that even more to say, look, it's just I get the name is there, and will it make you a little nervous if you see UConn there? Sure it will, just based on the fact that they've been able to work some magic. What is it, that winning, I think, all 12 of their NCAA tournament games, average of 21.7 points over the past 2 years. Sure, that is a glaring number that's going to stand out when you're sitting there. However, when you look at it from this standpoint, I think you said something that if you look at all the bracket challenges out there and all this stuff this year, I guarantee you UConn over Oklahoma is going to be one of the highest picks of any first-round matchup because of the reasons we just mentioned. But Oklahoma is a tough matchup for UConn after looking at this and really understanding, like with Oklahoma, those non-conference wins they had this year over Arizona, Michigan, and Louisville, those are not ones we can just look at and say, all right, how did that happen? We can kind of understand how that happened based on how Oklahoma plays. And I think, sure, UConn's a team where they're going to be able to protect the rim. They're a good rebounding team. But, if there's a team that can counter that, it's Florida, because I just think when you look at the differences between the two teams this year, it is pretty startling. Yes, UConn can score the ball and all this other stuff, but they're not a great defensive team. And I just think when you're playing Florida, knowing what they can do, they're now the number 1 offensive team in the country. You have to be able to defend. And we've seen the teams that have struggled to defend and the number of points that Florida puts up on them. UConn is barely a top 100 defensive team this year. And I just think if that winds up being the matchup, other than the fact that it's UConn and they've had success in recent years, there's nothing in this particular basketball matchup that makes me think that Florida would not be able to come out and even win this game by double digits.
Blake, I want to end with a conference-wide view, but final Florida thought. In the West region, St. John's, Texas Tech, Maryland, Memphis, who poses the biggest risk to the Gators?
I think Maryland's a team to keep an eye on, and I've been guilty at times of looking at that conference and being like, all right, how much do I buy in on some of these Big Ten teams? That's been the case, but I think Maryland's one that is very interesting because they are, again, kind of the profile. They are a rock-solid, elite defensive team. They can also find ways to score the ball in a variety of ways, and I like that about them. Sometimes you'll have teams coming into the tournament. All right, that's a team that's great at getting to the free throw line. It's great at shooting threes, but then the other areas, they're like very below average. Maryland's pretty good everywhere, and I think that's something where when you just sort of look at the build of this team, they've got some experience, they've got some size. They have played in a really good Big Ten this year. And I just think, if they're able to come out and use some of that potentially, that may be a team that can give you a little bit of trouble. But in all honesty, I put the numbers together. If you average sort of the advanced metrics and all that from KenPom and elsewhere, I'm not going to call the West easy, but if you're averaging it of the top 8 seeds in each of the regions, this is the region where you have kind of the best opportunity to get to the Final Four if you're the top seed. So I think Maryland's the one to keep an eye on in that Sweet 16. But really, I like Florida in any of the matchups with any of those top-tier teams at the bottom.
Oh, I agree. And you look, the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight are in San Francisco, and if it's chalk in the region, you would have Florida, St. John's, Texas Tech, and Maryland having to all go out to San Francisco. So I'm not sure if anybody is going to have that big of a home court advantage out there. Final moments, Blake Lavell, the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast. All right, the conference as a whole. Auburn is a 1, Tennessee's a 2, Alabama's a 2. We know about Florida. First off, outside of those 4, who makes the deepest run?
Yeah, I tell you, I think when you, like you said, you look at some of these teams potentially, the team that I would keep an eye on here, and I'll kind of, let's say, go with a sleeper type team. I think Ole Miss is an interesting one. They're a 6 up there, in that South region. Of course, Auburn's there and all that. But we always say, right, it's about styles. I think Ole Miss got a good draw in terms of the styles with Michigan State and Iowa State because those are defensive-oriented type teams. Not saying they can't score. Sure they can. But we know, I think, when you get kind of some of these games in the tournament, they can be lower scoring, not rock fight, Foley type games, but you're going to get some pretty physical defensive type games. I think that plays into what Ole Miss wants to do because they have the old guards. We know how they're going to play defensively, with just the style that they play. So I don't think it's the worst idea to look at Ole Miss as a potential sleeper team because of the way it matches up stylistically. But yeah, it's going to be kind of fun beyond that. And I'm telling you, look at those 8-9 games. If you're looking for potential upsets for the SEC, it's probably going to be hard for Mississippi State to beat Baylor or Duke, right? They're Duke. Not saying Oklahoma's going to upset Florida, but again, we mentioned the reasons why Oklahoma could be tricky for UConn. That Gonzaga-Georgia game, Georgia right now, if you look at some of the computer metrics and all that, they're playing like a top 10 team in the country over the past month. And they're also playing another team that's playing like a top 10 team in the country over the past month. So that's an 8-9 game with Houston up there as the one. I really like Kelvin Sampson. But look out for these 8-9 SEC teams to see if maybe potentially there's something there. I think Oklahoma's got the toughest challenge with Florida, but don't be surprised if you see maybe one of these others challenge those second-round teams in those spots.
Blake, we got 60 seconds. There's 14 SEC teams that are going to start this thing. How many are still playing next week?
I'm going to say it's 6 because I think that's kind of when you break down all the numbers. I do think the path for the top seeds feels pretty good in terms of getting to that potential spot. And then, like I said, you maybe add in another one there somewhere, whether it's an Ole Miss, maybe A&M's able to make a run with a rematch with Auburn. Obviously, I think, the top 1 and 2 seeds I feel pretty good about. Kentucky has a chance to get there as a 3. But I think 6 kind of that number that I've settled in on when it comes to this. Because look, too, you look at the first round matchups, some of these SEC teams, are underdogs by 3-4 points, something like that. We talk about these 10 seeds and such. So I'm going to go with 6 as the magic number.
Blake, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about the Southeastern 16, where they can find it and what they can expect.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ryan. Yeah, find us on YouTube, Southeastern 16. There we'll be doing previews for every single first-round matchup. So that is 14 in the SEC. We'll have breakdowns of all that there. So, yeah, follow us on YouTube, Southeastern 16.
Blake Lavell is the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast. Blake, I know you're busy. Thank you for the time, pal. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
We begin with Ed Werder.
Hi, I'm Ed Werder from ESPN.
And nobody knows that team better than our Ed Werder. He joins us from headquarters
on 1010 XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Hi, I'm Malcolm Anthony. Have you been charged with a crime? You don't have to face it alone. I'm here for you. Stay out of trouble, but if you don't, call me. 285-4LAW. That's 285-4LAW. in the 904.
The flagship station of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Buying a home used to feel like a complete headache. Listings here, pre-approval there, financing somewhere else. Now, Rocket is giving every home one address. Rocket.com. A single seamless homeownership platform to help you find, buy, sell, finance, and refinance your home. Everything you need, all under one roof. Visit Rocket.com, the new home for all things homeownership. Rocket. Own the dream.
It's March Madness, and your office needs a champion. Advanced Business Solutions teams up with Xerox to bring you copiers that never miss a shot. Fast, reliable, and ready to handle the pressure. Make the winning play for your business. Hire the champions at Advanced Business Solutions, where your business goes for the win. Locally and veteran-owned.
Print documents and IT management. Advanced Business Solutions.
an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
What does it mean when someone says the Continental United States?
It's always a good idea to compare homeowners insurance rates when it's time to renew. Before storm season, log on to southernoak.com and get an instant quote or find an agent in your area.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
The Continental United States refers to all United States in North America. Hawaii is in the Southern Hemisphere.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
Did you know your pup could take 30,000 to 60,000 steps a day at Dogtopia of Jacksonville Beach Boulevard? That's a whole lot of tail wagging fun with their best furry friends. At Dogtopia, they turn playtime into exercise, learning, and socialization in their off-leash, open play environment. Dogs build confidence, reduce anxiety, and stay happy and healthy, all while having the time of their lives. Visit Dogtopia of Jacksonville Beach Boulevard today.
Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. When pests invade your home or business, you don't just need them out, you need them out fast. And you need to keep them out. At Terminix, they'll show up for you and eliminate pests quicker, just like they did at my house, because they care about what matters most to you. When pests show up, so does Terminix. Don't live with a pest problem, Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TERMINIX.com. That's right, Terminix it.
Welcome to AT&T. How can I help?
Hey, I thought I could trust my twins with my phone, but they outnumber me, man.
Whoa, that's a lot of glitter paint.
Let's trade lives.
At AT&T, everyone can trade in an old or glittered iPhone, any year, any condition, and save on a new iPhone. Ask how to get iPhone 16 Pro on us. New and existing customers. Savings vary by device and trade-in combinations. Restrictions apply. See att.com for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
This is Greg Huntington, a.k.a. The Mangler. I'm on the winning team at Waste Management. WM is the largest sustainability company in North America. If your business needs sustainable environmental services for waste removal and recycling collection, then you can count on the industry leader of WM to deliver results. Your services will be completed in a timely, safe, and eco-friendly manner. Go to WM.com/Duval. That's WM.com/Duval and get signed up today. If anyone can talk trash, it's the Mangler.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold and silver and diamonds from the public. Gold has recently hit an all-time high at almost $3,000 per ounce. Pay bills, buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar or trade it in for a new piece and get even more value at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
You've got a lot on your plate. The last thing you need is car trouble. At Maxie's Mechanics, we help you keep your cars, trucks, and SUVs running safely. Visit MaxieAutoRepair.com today for honest service, reliable repairs, and peace of mind for you and your family.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And we certainly appreciate Blake Lavell, host of the Southeastern 16, for joining us. Coming up here in the 9 o'clock hour, more on the NCAA tournament. Both Jerry Palm of CBS Sports, their bracketologist, and Mark Wise of ESPN will stop by to help you put final preparations on your bracket. My Final Four, I kind of homered up here with the SEC. I got 3 SEC schools. I got Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, and Duke. I got Florida and Duke in the national championship game. And I did pick the Florida Gators to win the national championship. Florida's getting picked by a lot of schools. In fact, I think on the ESPN.com bracketology, or the bracket game that they do every year, the millions and millions of brackets that are submitted, Duke, I think, is the number 1 pick to win the title. Florida is number 2 right now in that department. But more college basketball talk coming up in just a moment. Quickly back into the NFL. Did you see the Houston Texans today? Signed Cam Robinson to go with Christian Kirk, to go with Ronald Darby. So 3 former Jacksonville Jaguars from last year's roster are now going to be in Houston with Darby, Kirk, and now Cam Robinson. They gave Robinson a decent amount of money. It looks like he's the replacement for Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. It could be worth up to $14 million in a one-year deal. So Joshua Hines-Allen's probably licking his chops on that one, getting the idea to face Cam Robinson a couple of times, as Houston is going with Jaguar cast-offs this offseason, which is certainly an interesting way to do it. By the way, Danielle Hunter for the Texans gets a one-year contract extension tonight after an incredible first year out there with the Texan organization. More on the NFL coming up, but back into the NCAA tournament, back into a little March Madness. Jerry Palm, CBSSports.com, their resident bracketologist. Let's talk Florida. Let's talk SEC. Let's talk Cinderella, who could be a couple of double-digit seeds to keep your eye on beginning tomorrow. Jerry Palm joins me next here on a Wednesday evening. It's Hacker After Dark.
1010XL says thank you to our military.
We're American because you're in America, okay? Greatest country on the planet.
God bless the USA.
Hey, Hicken here. I couldn't be any happier than to join the George Moore Chevrolet family. When I say family, I mean it. Visit their beautiful showroom today off Atlantic Boulevard. Find out exactly what I'm talking about. No pressure, just friendly help. And whether you want a car, a truck, SUV, electric, pre-owned, you name it, George Moore Chevrolet has it. And if you can't make it over to Atlantic Boulevard, no problem. MooreChevy.com is easy to navigate as any site you will try. It's never been more easy to use. George Moore Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $40,000 a year, and right now make over $90,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition or student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted to the program, your only cost for the books and the course fees, about $800 a year.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org, and you can apply there.
Apply by May 15th.
This is your Mad Dad's Update with Chapter President Donald Ford. In our effort to curb crime, drugs, and violence during the summer months, we are offering Friday Night Lights. It has already started and will be going until school starts back. It is every Friday night from 6:30 to 9:30 at the Blacktop, 5732 Normandy Boulevard, and behind the Potter's House Christian Academy. We manage 3 basketball courts. You are not running on the cement. We have covering on each court. The Lakers, the Magic, and the Heat. Ages 15 to 40 years old. This will give them something to do other than selling drugs and getting into trouble. We have monitors there giving leadership. We have to wake up, stand up, and speak up. Hit me on Facebook and tell me what you think. Or MattDadJacksonville.com.
It's the Mr. Chubby's Bracket Challenge going on now at 1010XL.com. Print your bracket and bring it to any Mr. Chubby's Wings during Live Madness games. Get a free Miller Lite for each game you pick right. Top prize, Saturday passes to Welcome to Rockville.
Hey, Jacksonville, I'm sure by now you've seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We are an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We are committed to customer service, reliability, and have unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. GFL, green for life.
At Cannons of Jacksonville, they know that when you're towing anything, you gotta have products you can rely on. With over 50 years of fabrication expertise, the family at Cannons can repair or install precisely what you need to tow with confidence. Whether it's a heavy-duty hitch, trailer frame, gooseneck, tow bar, or any other towing accessory, Cannons will provide you with unmatched precision and durability. For all your towing needs, visit cannonsofjacks.com, where quality and customer satisfaction collide.
Okay, sports fans, Hicken here. Let's talk skin. I and Beaches Dermatology are reminding you all to wear your sunscreen. Spring is here, and that means more time outside. Grabbing the clubs for your tea time? Bring the screen. Heading out on the boat? Bring the screen. Headed to the beach? Definitely bring the sunscreen. All in all, make sure sunscreen is included in your outdoor activities. If you have any concerns now, give Beaches Dermatology a call. I've been seeing them for years, and my skin thanks me for it. Call today online at beachesdermatology.com.
Your tax refund is here. Why not invest in your home? Superior Fence and Rail helps you build value with beautiful, durable fences that boost your home security, privacy, and curb appeal. With expert installation and financing options, turning your yard into an outdoor oasis is easier than ever. Reinvest in your home today with Superior Fence and Rail.
When you're on the fence, about the fence, SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and there's so many cool products that are on the line at Cycles of Jacksonville. The showroom is Atlantic and Regency, and we're talking, Greg, you've got from any level of price point, the experienced rider to the inexperienced on-road, off-road.
We've got it. We've got ATVs, we've got motorcycles, we've got scooters, we even have the new Honda boats. We've got something for everyone.
Don't forget about the boat line from Honda. It's all right there, waiting for you. Atlantic and Regency or Cycles of Jacksonville's Facebook page.
Picking here for Bow 9 Associates, where you'll find Jacksonville's most esteemed eye doctors at each of their locations. After being selected for one of the most competitive ophthalmology fellowships in the world, Dr. Frank Bowden is frequently called upon for his expert opinion. He is currently one of the few cornea and external disease specialists in the area and the founder of Bow 9. Visit Bow 9 Associates today and experience the difference. Bow 9 Associates, keeping the First Coast focused.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. Call 904-722-1111.
Instant Keys saves the day if you've lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call Instant Keys, 722-1111.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The NCAA tournament gets underway this Thursday. And look, 14 teams in the Southeastern Conference are in, including the Florida Gators, who are the number one seed in the West region. Let's talk about all of it with Jerry Palm, CBSSports.com's bracketologist. Jerry's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Jerry, how we doing?
All right, how are you?
Hey, Jerry, we're good. Thank you for the time. So after Selection Sunday, is it a decompression time for you? What's kind of it like being a bracketologist after the committee makes their announcements?
It's not quite as busy, but I'm still involved in the tournament. I'm going to Milwaukee and Indianapolis and San Antonio, and full decompression time isn't really till after that.
You know, I got to ask, and who knows how it's going to work out, but on Sunday, the big story nationally, North Carolina is in, West Virginia and Indiana, I guess, did not get in. A lot of people had serious issues with that. You're in this line of work. It's what you do. What was your reaction?
It was, I had serious issues with it. I don't know anyone who didn't, unless you wear, that light blue all the time. There is, I've been doing this a very long time. There has never been a team that so thoroughly proved in the regular season that they were not an NCAA tournament team and got in anyway. It's just, there's just nothing else to say about it. They beat one team all year, UCLA, good team. They beat them in New York. But had so many other chances and failed every single one. Most teams don't even get that many chances. But they failed all but one. And then, they talk about, 1-12 quad one record, which is true, of course. But a couple of those games were not tournament teams. Like the road win at Pitt, I think, is one of them. They lost at home to Stanford. That's a quad 3 loss. And they only beat one other team in the tournament, which is American, the Patriot League champion. And they are the lowest ranked team, North Carolina, played this season, and they are also in a play-in game in Dayton. So it's the most empty resume you can imagine. There's never been a team with a quad one win, and that many chances to get anywhere near the NCAA tournament. And the committee thought so much of them, they seated them behind VCU and Drake in the 1-68 list. Those are two teams that, had they shown up with at-large resumes instead of conference champion resumes with the same results, but they're not champions, they're getting passing glances and mostly sent on their way. So, but North Carolina's behind them and in the bracket. So it's inexplicable, and I don't even know if they explained it. Certainly not in any way that satisfies anyone, except North Carolina, of course.
Quickly, because I want to go on to Florida, obviously, but it's bad optics to have the committee chair be the AD of that school, right? That's a terrible look.
That makes it worse. It's a bad decision, whoever makes it, and he had nothing to do with making the decision because that's their protocol. But you're right. I mean, it makes it look even worse. There's no question about that. I wonder if in the back of his mind, part of it was like, oh gosh, I wish he hadn't done that to me. But he'll never say that part out loud if he felt it at all. But there's just there's no justification for him. Certainly not ahead of West Virginia, maybe Indiana either, but it would have only been room for one of them to replace North Carolina. But anyways, that's going to be the big thing. And by the way, if North Carolina wins tonight, I will get to see them in Milwaukee. So I'm sure they'll be real happy to see me.
Jerry Palm, CBSSports.com, with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. All right, the Florida Gators, the number 1 seed in the West. What was your thought on Florida's run in Nashville and getting seeded number 1 in the West region?
Well, they deserved it. I felt like the last number 1 would go to the Tennessee-Florida winner, and Florida won, and they're just having a terrific season all the way around, and they're having a terrific end of the season as well. But Florida certainly deserved that spot. They're considered one of the favorites of the tournament. I actually picked them to win. So what a great season for Florida.
Florida fans around here, Jerry, got awfully nervous Sunday night when the 8-9 matchup came out in that region, and it was UConn. Obviously, the 2014 memory, UConn being a back-to-back champion. You do this as well as anybody. Explain to Florida. UConn's good, right? But explain to Florida fans that this is not the UConn team of the last 2 years.
Oh, gosh, no. Well, they just, they had I don't know if you remember about them in the Maui Invitational, but that was basically a lost weekend, and they were just never able to put together any sort of consistent run of play. So, they've had some good moments, of course, but it really has been as much good and bad. They've been a hit-and-miss team all year, and they just never got, they were thought of very highly at the beginning of the year, before the season started, in large part because of what they had done the 2 previous years, and faith in Coach Hurley that he would get whatever roster they have, in top shape, and it just never came together. So for Florida, I wouldn't worry too much about UConn. There's a chance they don't even beat Oklahoma. I mean, it's an 8-9 game for a reason. So is that Oklahoma? Oh, they could get Oklahoma in the second round. No, that can't be right.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
that's what happens with 14 SEC schools.
Bracketing SEC has been a nightmare this season. I've never had to work so hard to bracket, and it's not just the SEC. I mean, it's that, of course, but then you end up with like 8 or 9 or 10 Big Ten teams in a bracket, and then another 8 from the Big 12, and trying to keep everybody separated when you've got so many teams from 3 conferences is really crazy.
Jerry Palm, CBSSports.com. The West region as a whole, Jerry, St. John's, Texas Tech, Maryland, who would be the biggest challenger to Florida?
Well, I like Maryland a lot. They're kind of a sleeper team for me. I don't expect St. John's to get to Florida. It's a team that's had a great season, and they're a great story in college basketball this year, and with good reason. But they just don't have a lot of meat on the bone of their resume. They don't really have the big wins that some of the other teams at the top of the bracket have. So I suspect that, they're going to get into somebody like Texas Tech and find it to be too much of a challenge. But I would, I guess, be surprised if they didn't get at least as far as the Sweet 16. But I think Maryland and Texas Tech are the primary challengers to Florida in their region.
As far as the other regions, how would you assess them? Which is the toughest region as it stands?
I think the toughest could be Auburn's region. And Auburn, of course, the number one seed, an outstanding season, kind of stumbled a little bit at the end, but I kind of wonder if they let up a little at the end of the season, because it was apparent to everyone they were going to be the overall number one. And, they get it turned on again, which isn't always easy, that, they could definitely dominate in this region. But I think Michigan State could challenge them. I think Michigan could challenge them. Iowa State is never fun to play if they get that far. The other teams in this region are good teams. And, I guess I didn't mention A&M. They're the 4th seed, but I don't have a lot of faith in A&M. Even getting to Auburn, but challenging Auburn if they get there.
You're the perfect person to ask because you do this nationally. There's a lot of people around here that couldn't understand why Auburn, particularly because Florida beat them, Duke and Houston seem to be getting so much more national love than Florida. Why do you think that was?
I don't know how that I felt that it was that way. They were the higher seeded teams because they had better seasons. It's as simple as that. It's Florida's non-conference schedule didn't really help them very much this year as compared to the other teams at the top of the bracket. So I would, and for Duke, they had to obviously play a great non-conference schedule, which they always do anyway, but their league let them down. But it's, Florida's the 4th number one, I think in large part because they didn't get the quality outside the league that some of these other teams did.
Final moments, Jerry Palm of CBSSports.com. All right, this opening weekend, 14 SEC teams are going to begin this thing. How many make it through this weekend, in your opinion?
The whole weekend to the Sweet 16?
To the Sweet 16.
Let's see. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. I really only have 4. I guess I only have 4. Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Alabama in the Sweet 16.
Wow, so you have Kentucky and Missouri and A&M going down before the Sweet 16.
Yes. Well, yeah, and Mizzou, of course, is seeded to go down before the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Kentucky is not. I like Kentucky. I just feel like they're banged up, and it's I think that they got a bad draw with getting possibly Illinois, which is a team that's better and that has been banged up for a lot of the season and is just now, getting back to health, whereas Kentucky's banged up and not getting back to health. But I guess A&M was a 4 seed. I didn't pick them through. I'm not sure which other SEC teams that were seeded top 4 that I didn't pick through. But Kentucky and A&M, I know for sure off the top of my head.
Obviously, a lot of people are filling out brackets. Let me ask you a couple of things. The 4 number 1 seeds, is anybody in trouble to not make it past this weekend?
This weekend, I would be very surprised if anyone didn't make the Sweet 16.
I guess the thing people are talking about here is just maybe the name. It's the Houston-Gonzaga issue, perhaps, in round 2.
Okay, but this isn't Gonzaga.
Mm-hmm.
This Gonzaga team played some good teams. Their best win of the year was St. Mary's in their conference championship game. Before that, their best wins were Baylor, Indiana, and San Diego State. That's a 9 seed team that didn't make it and the last team in, or the second to last team in. So, they're not what you're used to seeing from Gonzaga.
Do you have even if it's just round 1, do you have a Cinderella, a 13 or higher, or even a 12 or higher winning?
I picked McNeese to win their first game. I picked VCU to win their first game. I picked Yale to beat A&M. I think that's it. I think those are my 3 double-digit seeds that I picked to win a game.
All right, let's take it all the way to San Antonio. Who do you have in your Final 4?
Florida, Michigan State, Duke, and Houston.
And you have the Gators doing what?
Winning.
You have the Gators winning the whole thing.
Beating Houston.
Wow. All right. From your lips to the basketball god's ears here in Gainesville and Jacksonville. People would love that. All right, Jerry, tell us about CBS Sports coverage. Obviously, you guys are going to be all over it. What can people look forward to?
Oh gosh, we've got of course television rights to the tournament, so we've got all the games and we share some of it with TNT at Turner, and but obviously our site has got wall-to-wall coverage on everything. We're everywhere in this tournament, so it'll be a great resource of information all the way throughout the NCAA tournament.
Jerry Palm, CBSSports.com. Jerry, I know how busy you are. Thank you for taking time out. We'll talk again soon.
All right, thanks. Anytime.
He's not a night owl, but he does come out at night. Packer After Dark. All the sports talk and hot topics you need to know about. Live and local, even late night. After Rick Ballou, evenings on 1010XL.
Ballou here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
The 2025 NFL season is right around the corner, and the Jags are building something special. A fresh team, a new culture, and a stadium that's going to change the game. Be there to witness head coach Liam Cohen and the rest of the coaching crew in action and secure your place in line for the stadium of the future with your 2025 season ticket membership. Visit Jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. We can't wait to see you at the bank this fall.
Youth sports at the YMCA's focus on teamwork, discipline, and building confidence. Our experienced coaches can create a positive and supportive environment where your kids can grow, stay active, and develop a love for sports. Sports like basketball, volleyball, swimming, gymnastics, and even elite skills training. Join the fun and register. Give your kids a chance to be a part of something special. Visit fcymca.org to learn all about youth sports at the Y.
St. Johns County parents, does your kid have energy to burn? Want them to play a sport for their middle school? Sign up today for the St. John's Middle School Athletic Association. Spring pickleball, tackle football, dance, and cheerleading. Who doesn't want their kid to be the next NFL quarterback or dance floor diva? Hurry, time is running out. March is almost over. You know how fast your kid can go from playing Xbox to practicing their touchdown dance or sideline cheer? Sign up at sjmsaa.org. sjmsaa.org.
Get more Gators on the Gator Bites podcast presented by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists with new episodes every Friday. Subscribe and listen by searching for 1010XL's Gator Bites podcast wherever you find podcasts and at 1010XL.com.
Call 904-500-COOL. Ideal Conditions.
Ideal Conditions Heating and Air Conditioning is your go-to for all AC repairs and replacements. Just gas your AC. For exceptional service, call 904-500-COOL or visit idealconditionsjax.com to schedule your estimate today.
Call 904-500-COOL.
Honk if you see us. Call for service.
Ideal Conditions.
Idealconditionsjax.com.
Guys, your lawn's the home field. Now you can champion your St. Augustine grass. TopDressing.com just hit Jacksonville with a game-changing patented process. Aerate and transform your turf into a fairway-worthy masterpiece. Less water, shorter cuts, and the envy of every neighbor. No one else delivers a perfect 10 lawn like this. Visit TopDressing.com and dominate your block with the same process that golf courses use. Top dress your lawn like the pros with TopDressing.com.
Summer in Jacksonville. Sun's out, flip-flops on, and whoa! Well, there goes Uncle Bob into the pool again. Protect your pool deck with Don't Slip Deck Coatings of Jacksonville. Their multi-layered slip-resistant coatings keep you on your feet, not on your backside. Durable, stylish, and way cheaper than an ER visit. Don't Slip Deck Coatings even has indoor options so your kitchen floor isn't a skating rink. Call 904-466-1839 for a free quote and follow Don't Slip Jacks on Facebook and Instagram.
Tired of supermarket produce that's traveled thousands of miles before you get it? Treat your family to farm-fresh, Florida-grown fruits and veggies delivered right to your home with Doorbell Farms. No supply chain issues or questionable origins, just seasonal produce hand-picked from local farmers. Subscribe monthly and enjoy the best local farm produce delivered right to you. Sign up now at doorbellfarms.com.
connecting real people to real family farms. Doorbellfarms.com.
Buying a home used to feel like a complete headache. Listings here, pre-approval there, financing somewhere else. Now, Rocket is giving every home one address. Rocket.com. A single seamless homeownership platform to help you find, buy, sell, finance, and refinance your home. Everything you need, all under one roof. Visit Rocket.com, the new home for all things homeownership. Rocket. Own the dream.
This is Hayes Cartline for Physician Guided Weight Loss. I'll tell you, this program works. I'm losing weight. I've got more energy. So my friend started the program a few weeks ago, and she's already seeing results.
That's right, Hayes. I just had my first month weigh-in, and I'm down 11 pounds. The food noise in my head is gone, and I just feel good. Plus, I have had no side effects.
Now's the time to do something that works. Start with Physician Guided Weight Loss, 257-4344, or visit pgweightloss.com.
Are you thinking about a pool for your home? Blue Haven Pools is Jacksonville's largest pool builder. They've built pools for over 20,000 satisfied families since 2000. It's never been easier to design the perfect pool for your home, family, and budget. Call Blue Haven Pools today at 904-620-0090 to get a free in-home estimate for your in-ground pool, or visit bluehaven.com. Don't let another summer pass by without a pool. Join thousands of happy Jacksonville pool owners in a Blue Haven pool.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Now the cool down with Donovan Air, Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jax cool since '87.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us, and the madness is set to begin. Tomorrow, 64 teams will get it started, and including the Florida Gators, who begin on Friday as the number 1 seed in the West region. Of course, they will take on Norfolk State, a game you will hear right here on 1010XL. Let's break down the NCAA tournament, certainly focusing on Florida and their chances with my buddy Mark Wise of ESPN's family of networks. Mark is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Mark, it's your time of year, man. How are you?
Hacker, I'm doing great, man. But before we break down some games, I got to ask you a question. Are you a 1 bracket guy, or are you a 3 or 4 bracket guy?
You know, normally I'm a 1 bracket guy, but in a year like this where a lot of it's so much up in the air, it might be numerous brackets this year, I got to admit. What about this year, Mark, as far as the bracket goes? I mean, let's focus on the big picture first. 14 SEC teams. I mean, that's incredible, correct?
Yeah, it is. It means that the committee did what they said they were going to do about conference records, that they don't look at conference records. That's the reason why Texas and Oklahoma were not excluded. They did get in, even though their conference records were 6-12. It comes down to, those quad 1 wins. Now, I can't explain North Carolina. I don't understand how North Carolina got in. If the committee asked these questions of everybody's resume, who did you play, who did you beat, where did you beat them, and then the new one, because of all the metrics, is how did you play? But in those 4, the most important one to me is still who did you beat, and only 1 quad 1 win. It doesn't get it done for me. And then when the committee chair explained that West Virginia, even though they had 6 quad 1 wins, they had DeVries was out since December, and yet West Virginia had 4 quad 1 wins without him.
Yeah.
So that just didn't make any sense. And I know it's a tough job. I've said this all along. The committee gets 96% of it right every year. But man, it sure seems like that other 4% is really loud.
Well, and here's the thing too, Mark, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to obviously focus on Florida and moving forward, but when the chairman of the committee is the athletic director of the school that got in, I mean, that's a terrible look, correct? Yeah.
That's bad optics right there. And I'm reading this morning that he gets a bonus with North Carolina getting in the tournament. Let me just say that bonus is pretty hefty.
Yeah, it's a bad look. I agree. But again, and people will say, well, if you're the 68th or 69th best team, should we really be having the conversation? But those West Virginia kids, they played their hearts out. For them not to get in was interesting. But nevertheless, it is what it is. And now let's focus on the Florida Gators. Mark, what a run in Nashville, man. I mean, from that loss to Georgia, the last 5 or 6 games since that loss, Florida has probably played their best basketball of the year. They go through Missouri, Alabama, and Tennessee to win the SEC tournament. What did you take away from Florida's performance last weekend?
Well, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but the defensive game plan against Tennessee, the way they were able to utilize a rover, whoever was guarding Meshack, and turn him into a helper, and then they would do a switching move to change who the rover was. I thought it was extremely effective. One of the things, Hacker, that we don't talk enough about because simply it doesn't exist anymore is player development. And what I mean by that is player development now is from October to late March, and that's it. But yet Florida's got player development in 2 different ways. One is the returning guys. So Houck and Condon, how much better are they than they were a year ago? And then the development, Chinyalu is a completely different player right now than he was in November and December.
Mm-hmm.
Walter Clayton has learned to thread the needle as it relates to being the point guard and the scoring guard. He now has a great understanding of when he needs to do each. So Todd Golden and his staff, they deserve a lot of credit for player development in an area we don't talk much about anymore.
Number 1 seed in the West. Again, Mark Wise of ESPN here with us on 1010XL. The Gators were the number 1 seed in the West. There was a lot of trepidation, or I guess frustration, from Gator fans about that. What about that, Mark? Why did Auburn, Duke, and Houston get so much more national cred than Florida?
Well, overall body of work. Florida's who did you play? Florida's non-conference schedule was in the 200s. Who did you beat? They got what I would call is bonus size quad 1 wins. The win at Auburn, the win at Alabama, going 2-1 against Tennessee. But when you look at the overall body of work, it's a tough call, but I don't think there's a big difference in terms of where you're going I know there's a great history of East Coast teams going to the West and coming out unscathed.
And let's talk about that region that they're in, the West. Look, I think Sunday night when the bracket came out, Mark, Florida fans saw UConn, and I've called it all week some sports-related PTSD because of what UConn did to Florida in 2014 and because of what UConn has done the last 2 years. But you can speak on it better than I can. You're the encyclopedia here. But just from my point of view, I'm stressing to Gator fans, this is not the UConn team of 2014, and it's not the UConn team of the last 2 years.
And yet I want to remind everybody, if you're a 1 or 2 seed, you're usually in pretty good shape about getting to the second round. But forget that it's UConn. From the second round on, you better play your best basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this UConn team is different. They're still really good on the offensive end. Liam McNeely's one of the best freshmen in the country now that he's back healthy. But this is a completely different team on the defensive side. They have allowed teams to shoot 35% from beyond the arc this year. And if you're playing Florida, that's a bad number. So it's completely different. And then everybody asks me about, did Florida get the toughest draw? I don't know how to quantify that. I think that's wasted energy. Everybody has a hard draw. Everybody wants to talk about Florida might run into St. John's or anybody else on the other side of the bracket. You never know. You can only play the teams that are in front of you as they advance.
Mark Wise of ESPN here with us on 1010XL. The one thing, too, Mark, and with all due respect to Norfolk State, that is what it is. Florida, if they win that game, will get the winner of UConn, Oklahoma. I've talked to a few people this week that say, wait a minute, Oklahoma might have something to say about that UConn-Florida matchup in round 2.
I don't like that matchup for Arkansas. I think UConn will be too physical for them. It's one of the problems that Oklahoma's had all year long is on the glass. So I'm not a big fan of Arkansas's matchup there. As a matter of fact, if you're asking me, looking at the bracket, it's more like the matchups I don't like than the matchups I do like. Like, for instance, Yale. I think you remember Yale beat Auburn last year in the first round. I think there are a lot of teams that Yale could beat, but Texas A&M isn't one of them. A lot of people are going to be on the McNeese bandwagon in terms of being coached by Will Wade. That's the tournament I had last weekend, the Southland. And I just don't like that matchup against Clemson. I mean, McNeese's toughest, biggest starter is 6'6", and I think they'll have trouble with Clemson's size inside with Shiflin and Victor Locken. So it's more like the matchups I don't like right now.
Is there a 1 seed, Mark, that could be in trouble to not make it to the Sweet 16?
No.
So you don't buy the Houston-Gonzaga thing in round 2?
Well, I do think it'll be a great game, but again, Houston's too big, too strong, too physical. I just trust their 4-month body of work much better than I trust Gonzaga right now. But again, I'm telling you this now, all these games will be great games, but I still think all 4 number 1 seeds will make it to the Sweet 16.
Final moments, Mark Wise of ESPN. All right, before we talk about what could happen next week, let's focus on rounds 1 and 2. Give us a Cinderella. Obviously, like I often say, you've forgotten more basketball than I'll ever know, so you're the guy to ask. 12, 13, 14, maybe even a 15, dare I say. Who could be this year's Cinderella coming up beginning tomorrow?
Goodness. You're talking about getting to the Sweet 16, right? Because,
or just round 1. Just a round 1 huge upset.
Oh, my goodness. I think UC San Diego is worth keeping an eye on. I'll go with there. I think they're worth keeping an eye on. I think the Tritons are a good story. I think Drake is a good story in terms of Ben McCullum and bringing those 4 starters from Division II. So I'm going to be like everybody else, man. Thursday afternoon, I'm going to be holed up, brother.
Yeah.
It's going to be wall-to-wall hoops.
And I actually think the committee gave Florida a little bit of a break, putting them on Friday night after a 3-day stretch, back-to-back games.
Yep.
It's a lot better for Florida to play Friday night than Thursday afternoon. All right, Mark, as we begin to wrap up, 14 SEC teams are starting this thing. How many last through this weekend?
Well, I hadn't thought about it in that sense because how many are going to be underdogs in their first round game? I'm going to say 6. Move on.
And that would be, I would assume, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida. I like Kentucky. They're a 3 seed. It would be an upset if they didn't move on. I'll tell you another team that I like a lot is I like that Missouri team, Mark. I think that Missouri team could make a Sweet 16 run.
Yeah, the question with Missouri is Mark Mitchell and his health.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, you've heard me say this in years past. If you want to make a run to the Final Four, you've got to have NBA talent. You've got to be in Ken Palm's top 40 offensive and defensive efficiency. And the third one is you've got to be healthy. So what's Cooper Flagg's status? Is Iowa State, they're going to be damaged goods because Gilbert's out and so on and so forth. Mark Mitchell for Missouri. So that's another thing that you always have to keep an eye on.
Have you filled out a bracket? And if so, who's your Final Four?
I have not filled out a bracket yet. It's going to be hard for me to go away from chalk because the top teams have been so good this year. So how about I give you Auburn, Tennessee, Duke with a big asterisk, and Auburn, Florida, Duke with an asterisk, and I'll go with Tennessee to upset Houston.
And then final question. I think a lot of people are going to pick the Gators to win the national championship. You obviously saw up close and personal that 06-07 run, the back-to-backs with Florida back in the day. Do you think this Gator team should be one of the favorites to win the national championship?
Oh, I definitely think they're in the mix. I mean, when you talk about the way they played last weekend, really the way they played the last 8 weeks, if you want to put it that way, they have to be in the mix. The depth that they have in both the front court and back court is kind of unmatched in terms of the quality, whether you're talking about Aberdeen in the back court or Hanlogden and Houck coming off the bench in the front court. I mean, these guys, I don't think people understand how far Florida plays above the rim on the glass. And it's kind of a shock. But they, like their matchups with Alabama and Tennessee, they wore those teams out on the glass.
And I don't think people understand, too, unless you're a diehard fan or you follow it every day like you, how that SEC tournament prepared all these teams for the big dance. I mean, you talk about that Alabama, that Tennessee game, even the Missouri game. Mark, those were battles for Florida. I mean, just absolute battles in the paint there. And I think games like that for all those SEC teams will absolutely have them prepared beginning tomorrow.
I couldn't agree more. And Florida seems to have come out of the tournament, unlike a year ago, healthy.
Which that's obviously big, no doubt about it. 64 teams. It starts tomorrow at 12:15. Florida, of course, plays Friday night, a game you'll hear right here on 1010XL. Mark Wise of ESPN. Mark, thank you as always. I know how busy a time of year this is for you. Appreciate you, brother. We'll talk again soon.
All right, thanks. Enjoy the games.
And thank you to Mark Wise of ESPN for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark as the madness is set to get underway. 64 teams start this thing tomorrow right around noon Eastern. Of course, Florida is on the Friday slate. They will play Norfolk State in the 116 matchup in the West region out in Raleigh, North Carolina, and they will do that at 6:50 Eastern. And you will hear that game Friday night right here on 1010XL as Florida, clearly one of the betting favorites, right? You look at all these brackets that are being filled out. There are a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, are picking the Florida Gators to win the national championship. Certainly a lot of expectations for Florida to live up to, no doubt about that. But at 30-4 on the year and SEC tournament champions, they have had a phenomenal year to this point. They are a number 1 seed, and we will see if they can live up to said expectations. Well, that will just about do it. Glad to be back with you. Fresh back from a little New England getaway. I actually got back into Jacksonville around lunchtime today, but glad to be back with you here on a Wednesday night on Hacker After Dark, and we certainly appreciate you spending part of your Wednesday evening with us. We have a ton of people to thank for tonight's broadcast. Again, Mark Wise of ESPN. Thank you to Jerry Palm, bracketologist for CBSSports.com, and Blake Lavell, the host of the Southeastern 16 podcast, as we did a deep dive into March Madness with Blake Lavell, Jerry Palm, and Mark Wise, and we certainly appreciate those gentlemen taking time out for us tonight. Also, Jaguar-related, my guy Eric Dillard. You know him as E. Dilla on social media as we recap Jaguar free agency with E. Dilla. Of course, the Jaguars did a little something today as well. Former Gator offensive tackle Fred Johnson signs with Jacksonville. That is the 4th offensive lineman that James Gladstone and Liam Cohen have went out and gotten in free agency. You combine that news with Cam Robinson signing with the Houston Texans. And how about the Texans? Cam Robinson, Christian Kirk, and Ronald Darby. 3 former Jaguars all agreeing to terms now with the Houston Texans. Now, we will be back tomorrow night on a Thursday during NCAA March Madness, and we will do it all over again live from Mr. Chubby's. In fact, Blue will be out there as well, so we'll be out there from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the thick of the first round of March Madness, and we do hope that you join us then. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. Dylan, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Wednesday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have an absolutely terrific remainder of your Wednesday evening, and we will do it all over again tomorrow night on a Thursday live from Mr. Chubby's beginning at 8 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.
Where electric electrifying moments come to life.
Inside of a minute to play.
And